I don't know if you guys know Cooper on Twitter. Cooper underscore DFF, I think is his handle. So anyway, we were like going back and forth. I'm like, oh yeah, like you need to have who's Terrace Marshall. I'm like, this guy's going to be terrible in my process, but I love Terrace Marshall. Like, give me the Terrace Marshall. I'm breaking all the rules on Terrace Marshall. Like, dude, like you're wrong. I'm like, no, I'm right. And then we went back and forth. I'm like, he's an alpha. Like, I want alphas. He's like, why do you want alphas? I'm like, because they have better hit rates. And then he like proved me wrong. He's like, well, here's the hit rate for big guys. Here's the hit rate for little guys. So then when I flipped the criteria from a single top 12 season to 3 top 12 seasons, then we see the alphas emerge, and it's like night and day. The alphas are the guys you want in Dynasty. So when these guys like KJ Hamler, he was bulletproof last year, but he's definitely not an alpha. Like, he's tiny. I didn't have him ranked with the other bulletproof players last year because of this. Like, we didn't define alpha versus beta. It was more like I said, like I used to do, just, you know it when you see it. So I had him ranked way lower than the top tier guys. So you start filtering for these kind of things to figure out who's good, who isn't good, who has a better chance of like wide receiver 1 on repeat, like the guys that are just in the wide receiver 1 mix year over year over year. Those are the kinds of things that you need to keep looking for. The top 24 hit rate was already great, right? Like we already knew that the guys that are in here are already great. The guys that miss that are in here, by the way, are usually like the predictable guys. Like it's KJ Hamler, who's like a 3rd round dynasty rookie pick. Like, nobody's saying he's the best player in the class by any stretch. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that I always find funny with this type of thing is people always like, or not always, but people come to me sometimes and like, well, you're just picking the good players. I'm like, well, isn't that a valuable skill? Like, don't you want the good players? They're like, well, you need to find the sleepers. I'm like, well, no, just get the first round right. The first round is a 50% hit rate. Like, it's not like we're just crushing the first round. Not like everybody gets the first round right. Like, we're getting the first round right because we're eliminating the guys that don't fit. Back to your original question. You were talking about JaMarr Chase and Devonta Smith. JaMarr Chase looks like he's going to fit into that upper tier, like the generational tier with the generational alpha tier with the Julio Jones and the AJ Green and like that type of player. He's going to get the top 5 capital probably, or top 10 at the very least. He's definitely going to be a first round pick. Like, we know that. I read an article in The Athletic last year. They do this really interesting article called the Freak List. And it's just a bunch of players that they list that like are freaky athletic. And I went back, I don't know, 4 years, maybe 3-4 years, and looked at their athletic list, or looked at this freak list. Then I compared it to how these players actually performed in the combine, and they were like wildly accurate. Because I was expecting it to be like, yeah, I mean, everybody's on the freak list, right? Like, it's, everybody runs their pro day at 4.4. So of course they're going to be, but it was actually the guys who did perform freaky at the NFL combine, and JaMarr Chase is on the freak list. So I was like, you know what? He produced at a rate that is like unheard of as a 19-year-old. Like he had a Devonta Smith season at 19. That matters so much. When we're talking about like breakout age, we were talking about breakout age a few minutes ago. The reason that breakout age matters is because that means that these players that are less athletic and less like smaller, less athletic are competing against bigger, more athletic, more experienced players, and they're succeeding. So when they don't have the advantage, they're still winning. That's why breakout age matters so much. And when we look at JaMarr Chase, he didn't just succeed. He like dominated college football at 19, and he did it alongside Justin Jefferson, who is like like we already know that Justin Jefferson is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. We already know that. So when we look at JaMarr Chase's prospect profile, we're like, he actually outproduced Justin Jefferson, and he was younger, and he's going to be drafted higher, and he's going to be more athletic. How do you have anything other than JaMarr Chase anywhere near your number one? He is head and shoulders my number one.